Hello and welcome back, everyone. A Flavor Friday, which of course is a substitute for Happy Friday, as one does. Today we are going to be covering a Tinto flavor number 12 rather, and that's flavor spelled with a U because it's a more flavorful spelling, which is going to be covering the Ilkhanate of Persia, Chagatai, and the rise of Timur. In terms of what's going on and why we're covering this is, first of all, generally speaking, we're going to be covering more Project Caesar stuff on the channel. But also, I actually thought that this one was pretty reasonable or interesting of a Tinto flavor to specifically cover because the international organization of the Ilkhanate is not one that we kind of really have in terms of EU4, and what this resembles, just kind of as at a brief kind of look, is maybe something like a kind of Persian HRE, although not quite like that. But okay. We will kind of see and take a little bit of a look at it as we unpack some of the Persian flavor here with this Tinto flavor. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to one more week of Tinto flavor, the Happy Friday. It is indeed a Happy Friday, although happy should be capitalized here, in which we take a look at the flavor content, that's flavor with a U, of the super secret Project Caesar, or, you know, for those of you who feel sufficiently teased, Project Teaser. Today will be an interesting day since we will be taking a look at the content we have for the Persian Iranian region, which is to say we're going to be looking at a regional kind of thing rather than a specific country, which most of the previous Tinto flavors have been, including the Ilkhanate IO and the content related to the rise of Timur situation, which includes the flavor for the Chagatai Khanate. And of course, as per usual, I will apologize for all my pronunciations, as I will be kind of doing throughout, or I apologize ahead of time. Let's start a bit differently today by first looking at the Ilkhanate, which the in-game flavor for the most commonly used Ilkhanate IO. As usual, take all UI, 2D, and 3D art as a work in progress. Have we seen much? Okay. Most of it that we've seen, I think, has been 2D, but let's take a look. Through here, we have the Ilkhanan here, where we are going to be getting great power, score, plus 100, cannot become an empire, yes, can invite new members, yes, and then we have a ton of members in here, and so this is what is going on with the leader. Interesting that you can't become an empire. But continuing down, all international organizations have a quick access button, a feature that will call control groups with their own icon, which in this case is of unique IOs, is unique as you may see. Which in the case of unique IOs is unique as you can see, as you may say. Fair enough. This is an overview of the tooltip for the Ilkhanate. Here we have the power vacuum. They are without a leader. Nothing is going to get done for the foreseeable future until this is resolved. We see that there's a few claimants, and we see that there's an agenda tab here as well. The IO panel, which you can see from the status members and possible actions, we see all these members in here are part of the Ilkhanate. And this is the starting situation of the Ilkhanate, with the three main contenders, the Jaliarids, the Huligwids, and the Gurgan, apologies on pronunciation, in blue, and all of its other members in the green color. So we have the various members that are potential claimants. The reign and death of Abu Sa'id Bahadur Khan, the last Khan of the Borjigin dynasty, led to a power vacuum in the Ilkhanate, with several contenders trying to claim the title of Khan for themselves, while also trying to restore the old order of overlands ruled by the Khans. We're portraying this convoluted political situation through different mechanics. So we will see something that is a bit different than, you know, kind of EU4. Also, of course, EU4 90 years later in terms of the start date. So the power struggle that is being portrayed here already, kind of happened by EU4 time, as far as I remember, although I'm not that familiar with the history of Persia, especially during this time period. In order to restore the Khanate to its full glory, you will need to be one of the claimants to the Khanan, a special status, a feature available for all IOs, more about this next week in the HRE Tinto talk, which is, kind of probably going to be a little bit similar to this one. Here we have claimant, one attempting to unify and lead the Ilkhan under their banner. Special status. Members with a special status in an international organization enjoy certain privileges or have certain duties to fulfill. In some cases, the leader of the organization has a special status to emphasize their unique position. Other organizations have electors which are represented in special status, of course, the HRE. This is a good example of our lovely nested tooltips. We do love some nested tooltips. The yellow text are the hoverable features, and the blue text are the game concepts. Yes, I took the screenshots in the same sequence, but you could go even deeper. We do love going deeper and hover over the international organization concept for a further explanation. So we could hover here and get a further explanation. There's a way to become a claimant in the Ilkhanate through IO action, claim to the Ilkhanan. And here we see we will lose legitimacy and we will become one. And so if we join or are starting as as part of this Ilkhanate, but not as one of the 3 countries, we can become a claimant. By being a claimant, you will get access to the special CB, which can be used against the other members of the Ilkhanate, making it easier to become, making it easier and more straightforward to conquer them. Conquer cost for attacker, minus 25%. Max antagonism for attacker, 0%. Interesting. Does that mean we just generate 0 antagonism when we do this war? Conquest cost for defender, and max antagonism for a defender. And so, okay, I guess this is basically 0 cost type of war from the perspective of antagonism, but there are other things that you're going to have to care about, like not being able to really establish very firm control as you kind of radiate out from your capital, especially at game start in terms of the economics, and also losing valuable pops that are maybe going to be more qualified for other stuff and difficult to replace, but in terms of the infamy, or the antagonism as it were, basically no cost, as far as I could tell from reading this. All members of the Ilkhanate also have access to this other CB that in case of victory allows to remove the claimant to the Ilkhan and to the status from an objective country. Refuse false claimant. All members, though, have this. Okay. Allows to remove the claimant to the Ilkhanate status. Okay, fair enough. If you end up being the only claimant to the Ilkhanan, I think it is. Okay. You will automatically become its leader. This is something that we want to change so that it becomes an action in the main actions panel to make it more clear to the player. So I assume probably by the time the game's out, this is a change that they make. By becoming leader of the Ilkhanan, you may be able to unify the IO into a proper country once again. Unify the IO, so the international organization, into a proper big Persia. We are the leader of the Ilkhanan, and we can do this, and we can form this country, tier 4 formable country, and so then we just unify everything. This is a broken tooltip, which has already been reported as a bug. Alright. The second condition, that there aren't any countries with claimant status. You also need to control 75% of the locations owned by all the members of the Ilkhanate IO. In order to form the country, the IO will disappear the moment you form it too. Interesting. Well, needing to control 75% of the locations owned by all the members of the Ilkhanate IO in order to be able to form the country, that does seem like a little bit of extra work, but okay. The IO will disappear the moment you form it too. Makes sense. On a different tract, I assume that's an if? Right? If there's an extra if in philosophy, that means if and only if. But this is, of course, or an extra if. An extra F in the if, it means if and only if, but this is a lack of an I in an if, which it would be like that. You are a Persian member of the Ilkhanate. You have the opportunity to fight your way towards unifying the region in a completely different way with the CB. Shed the shackles of the Ilkhanan, which will give you less max antagonism, and you can just try and eat them to form Persia. The foreign Mongol rule of the Khanan must disappear. We shall unify Persia under our banner. Alright. Apologies for calling the Ilkhanate Persia earlier. I knew not my my lore. The Ilkhanate may cease to exist if all of its members are conquered by a country that is not a member of the IO. There isn't a leader of the claimants of the Ilkhanate. There are main contenders for the Ilkhanate at the start of the game is the horde of the Jalayirids, also the horde of the Huleguids, and the horde of Gurgan. Here we have, who's the most competent here? This guy. It looks like, at least. They're all kind of best in military. The Persian Iranian countries that are part of the Ilkhanate have their own flavor content available. The lands of Persia have always been situated in a privileged position, serving as the contact between the East and the West. I do think that they're going to be pretty well situated for the trade, especially the Mamluks. Kind of the Mamluks and also Persia. And on the path of many trade routes, especially towards the first 100 years of the game, maybe before colonialization starts getting going. These lands have also thus served as a hub of exchange for culture, ideas, faiths, and Zoroastrianism, Islam, Christianity, and even Buddhism permeating among its population. The Iranian peoples are thus a world people. The Iranian people are thus world people. Are we not all world people? And Persia has also been the birthplace of many great empires of the past, from the Achaemenids to the Sassanids. Man, isn't it also called the Graveyard of Empires? Shout out to Afghanistan, right? That's the nickname? Because that's where empires try and attack, and you just can't attack Afghanistan. It's just impossible. The recent Mongolian invasion, although I feel like Persia, like, in terms of at its height, included Afghanistan, but I'm not 100% sure. Iraq is more, modern day is more, like, in line with, like, Persia proper, but, actually, even Iraq's a little bit too far west, rather, right? Iran is the closest. The recent Mongolian invasion and the establishment of the Khanan have imposed on them foreign rule, but the Iranian people are ready to rise once again. For instance, you have advances like these, and we have the Sasanian heritage giving us cultural tradition. This seems pretty good. Plus 33%. We have trade maintenance, minus 10%. I think that'll just let you do more trade routes. And so if you have 10 trade capacity, instead of being able to make only 10 routes, or trade routes, you can instead make 11, something like this. Which is going to be useful, especially if you... if these modifiers stack additively, which the modifiers in these games tend to stack additively. If you can stack multiple instances of trade maintenance, that's like a really, really good, because, if you have one minus 10%, then you can go from 10 trade routes to 11, right? But if you have if you have 5 of them, you could go up to 20 trade routes, right? If each trade maintenance is minus 50%. Just in terms of how the math goes, it gets stronger and stronger. But continuing on, there are also special buildings like the Safawiya Order Hall and the Gilman Barracks, and special units like the Kizirbaz. I don't know how to pronounce the phonemes on some of these, like, accents and this type of stuff. Skirmisher and the Gilman. This is the formable for Persia and what it would look like as a country. Here we see Persia, and then we see Persian Empire. So we have, like, modern day Iraq here, Iran in here, and then Afghanistan, I think, is kind of up and around here. Or is Pakistan kind of close to here? Don't ever really want to put Pakistan on a map, though, because if we gesture too far east, or not east enough, we offend. Yeah, okay. But here we have the Persian Empire, kind of a big version with some blank spaces for areas that are not properly colonized here. Let's look at the one of the main contenders in Central Asia, the Chagatai Horde. So this is going to be, I assume, one of the ones that is not part of this kind of thing. The great, is that how they're going to spell Genghis Khan in here? Apologies, still a little under the weather. Starting to feel a little bit better, though. The great Genghis Khan managed to forge a great empire of all Mongolian people, bringing them to the full great land from Europe to... Is that really how they're spelling Genghis? Or, I mean, okay. All the people learned to fear the sound of the Mongol armies galloping in the might of the power of the great Khan. As the heirs of its legacy, the dream of bringing back the glory of the empire, of the greatest Mongolian empire, is still alive. Here we have the Horde. Nice strapping lad. Mongolian countries, which include countries involved in the Ilkhanate IO, such as the Jaliarids and the Huli-Guids, have a ton of content available, both for being steppe hordes and also for specific Mongolian content. We aren't going to reveal most of it, since this will be since this is already in a meaty Tinto flavor, and we still have to take a look at the future in the Golden Horde, which is going to have its own unique content. But this is an overview of some of it. We have government type bonuses here, which allows all this stuff, which was featured in a previous Tinto flavor that I don't think we've covered. There's some more relevant step features for the early game. Raid religious enemies for slave trade. That seems pretty useful, especially if you're trying to be trade-oriented. You know, you're getting the discount on trading and this type of thing. Although I think that was more tied with the Persian proper ones, in terms of, or like the Persia, non-Mongolian Persia-oriented ones, where you were having the reduced trade cost. The legacy of Genghis Khan. We are the descendants of the great conqueror of the world, Genghis Khan. His blood runs through our veins, making us proud and powerful people, promising us that everywhere our horses can take us shall be ours to conquer. Monthly progress towards aristocracy, 0.1. Cavalry maintenance costs, minus 10%. Expected cost of courts, minus 2%. This is a major reform. It can only be one at a time. This honestly doesn't look that strong, but sometimes it's about sending a message. Yeah. We have the Horse Lords of the Steppes. This is an advance, which gives cavalry reinforced cost minus 33%, and cavalry maintenance cost minus 33%. Well, if you start to stack these, that's minus 43%. Levies always allowed, yes. Minus 43%, that's a lot of discounts. Okay, and also allows horse archers as a regular regiment, and the Aurugas as a regular regiment. I assume that this is, because it's a, covered wagon, I assume that this is some sort of logistical thing. The only true beast is of human nature, that's true. The horses have been born and raised amongst our children, and they have learned to be as noble and ferocious as our own people. We recognize their harsh taming as our greatest pride, and they recognize us as their greatest lords. Yeah, horse lords. And so we see horse archers. This is, of course, going to take horses. I have been looking over a little bit some of the, some of the goods. And horses in particular are an interesting one because trading horses is more expensive. And so you really want to have horses locally to where you are building the units out of, or in the market of where you're building them out of, because it's something like twice the cost of merchants in order to move horses around, which of course makes sense. It takes a lot of food, you have to feed the horses, this type of thing. It is maybe something worth noting that if you really want to make good use of a Mongol type of civilization, you want to be playing in a region that has plenty of horse resources, or enough for your needs. We see the combat power of 4, which is a little bit strong. We hear the loud car outside, also strong. We get the unit weight per strength, plus 100%. It's going to be a little bit heavier because it is cavalry, which, again, they use the grain. We see food storage, 0.2. I'm trying to think if it's 1.0 on most of the infantry, but I don't necessarily have that big a frame of reference. I think the normal infantry movement speed is 1, so this is 3.5. I think if the entire army is composed of cavalry, though, you get to zip around the map quite a bit. And I do think, we were seeing one of the more recent Tinto talks, I think it was not this one, but the one before, talked about logistics and kind of introduced the idea of cutting supply lines. In particular, you can do a lot of work with just a couple cavalry units, relatively small, having that extra speed to be able to avoid armies, positioning in places where you will have a fog of war advantage, and just kind of cutting up supply lines with a relatively small force and then just running away is probably going to be a little bit of a strategy that you can kind of execute against the AI and other players. So I expect there to be some serious unit micro, in which case the movement speed becomes an incredibly valuable stat. We also see high initiative, so you can get in relatively quickly, and flanking ability plus 200%. And so these are going to be useful in combat as well. We see the terrain and combat preferences of various spots. But okay, continuing on, we see that this takes a little bit of salt, some horses, some leather. And then we see that I think maximum strength 5, very little combat power, frontage, morale, combat taken, a little bit of bonus here, combat strength damage taken. Weight per unit is a little bit higher, but we see food storage of 1, which I think is very much the point here, and food consumption of 0.5 instead of food consumption of like 2. So yeah, this is a logistics unit, but it is a fast-moving logistics unit. I don't know if the regular logistics unit is this fast. If it's not, this is actually pretty sweet here. These are military-administered familiar units and flocks left behind by the Mongolian armies. So you can have these guys organize the logistics behind the lines and this type of thing. Secure flanks. That's actually probably something that's pretty nice to have on your auxiliaries. But okay. Right? Because you're not going to get outflanked, and what you could do is you could leave like 1 or 2 like regular units with him. Probably not too much, especially at the start of the game. But if you have like 4 of these and like a couple regular, you don't want to leave yourself so weak that you can be fully picked off by someone who's trying to cut the supply line and make it so that they can actually defend supply line. And so maybe with a couple of units you get enough of that, but then yeah, you have a good chunk of food storage without very much consumption, so that's going to be useful. Now let's take a look at the content of Forest Situations, The Rise of Timur. This happens to you if you start the game with Chagatai or any of its subjects, but if you start the game with Barlas, one of these subjects, you'll find this lovely baby in your court. Good old Timur Borjigin. Don't know how it's pronounced, but we do see this little beautiful baby. He's a boy. He is our infant, that's true. And he's also a prodigy. Ability increase during education plus 0.1. He is a man of destiny. There are some events about the childhood and adolescence of Timur, and if he gets to the adult age, this event will trigger the rise of Timur, fueled by ambition to surpass the fallen caliphates and restore the great Mongol horde. Timur the Long Borjigin, with a handful of loyal soldiers, has laid the foundation of the Timurid horde, which of course is quite big at the start of the game in EU4, if I recall correctly. Although seemingly insignificant for the moment, the Khan intends to use his unparalleled understanding of warfare and his elite troops to grow the horde with ruthless efficiency, our favorite type of efficiency. This event can fire initially not just for the Barlas, but for Chagatai or any of its subjects, firing them a follow-up information event for the rest, in which the player will get the chance to choose to change to the Timurids country if they were not initially playing the chosen country, and the Timurids is the AI. Interesting. So anyone can kind of swap over. This gets a bit of variation on the starting situation of Timur, while ensuring that the player can always follow the Timurid path if they are playing in the area. Alright, fair enough. Timur has several traits, but this is the most important. The Scourge from Central Asia. Timur, is this the man? The myth or the legend? Is this the nation? Okay, this is, I assume this is trade. But, okay, let's kind of, this ruler, okay, it is a trait. Maximum war aggression -5, army levy size plus 50%. That seems like a lot. Can always be a military leader, yes. Aggressive modifier plus 0.1. This guy is blessed with a refined and learned mind, which has proven its capabilities on the battlefield many times. Their ancestors will color the soil of their enemies red, while their empire rises to become one of the greatest memories, or one of the greatest menaces, not memories, in Central Asia, Middle East, and India. It is a little hard to read with sunglasses on, in terms of generally just kind of not used to it. The country chosen will change to that of the Timurid Horde. We can see the Timurid Horde up here. And so the situation itself will appear. We see the rise of Timur. And this is Khan Timur, but what are these stats, dog? What are these stats? I thought you were Prodigy, and you have 0015? Dog. Plan an invasion. You can't even plan tying your shoes right now. Couriers for enemies, kills, and cities raised are just for flavor. They don't have any mechanical purpose. Uh-huh. Okay. Fair enough. The end requirements make the situation likely to last for the entire life of Timur. Timurids have to have a different ruler. Okay, yeah, fair enough. These are requirements to form Mongolia, by the way, which in theory you could as the Timurid Horde, right? Country rank will become empire. The event, the restoration of the Great Mongol Horde happens to us. I'm not sure if empire is the highest rank. I don't know if there's one above it, but it certainly sounds like one of the higher ranks. So none of this repeatedly forming different things, like 18 times in a row to stack modifiers. No more of that. And we have to choose Mongolia. The following must be true. We have to own a whole lot of stuff, including all the way up to Beijing, Chongqing, Guangzhou. Yeah, this is Karakoram. Karakoram, I think, is like modern-day capital of Mongolia. Beijing is modern-day capital of, China, but also northeastern China. Nanjing is a little bit more to the south. Kiev is in Ukraine, right? Kazan is kind of in Central Asia, so you have to have a really stretched out empire to form Mongolia here. So that's going to be a fun little objective. The first of the actions, plan invasion, has this following effect. We gain 5 antagonism towards us centered in a location, and we gain a casus belli here, which will be nice if we do not already have one. We can decide who to plan an invasion on, and then we will have Khan Timur's conquest cost for attacker minus 75%. That's really significant. So you can get a lot of combat done. Wait, does this really just give us 0 antagonism? So it's just the antagonism of making the conquest? But I'm guessing we can only target ones in this Persia region or something like that, or there's a limit to who we can select. But if this is the antagonism we get, and then we get no antagonism for this, that's a vibe here, huh? If you are able to reunify the region, the second action, select core region, will appear. The target region will become designated as our core region. Every location in that region becomes our core and gains core region as long as the Scourge from Africa is Central Asia is active. It looks like it costs a little bit of gold here. But okay, we can select a new core region, maybe even moving capital. We see Khorasan, Xinjiang. Those are not close to each other. Khorasan is in Persia, right? I think within the western portion of Persia, and this is in China. Selecting Khorasan. Okay. After having selected core region, a third action will unlock. Reform into a monarchy. We will become a settled country. We will become a monarchy, unlock the Timurid Empire, government reform, and etc., etc. We become an empire. And here we can see the long stretching Timurid Empire. Quite far-flung. Definitely you want to be more of a ball than a stretched out thing, considering how the way control is going to work, right? Because you won't be able to exert full influence really over kind of a very large chunk of your empire. This is more content and events triggering during the situation, but these are its core features. From there's also more flavor content for the Timurids related to the historical events and situation that happened to the Empire. This is probably the most important event for them. Integration with the Iranian people. Here we have the lands that Khan Timurlang Borjigin once conquered were vast and rich, almost as rich as the guy who can afford a car that is as loud and nice as that. He was more of a conqueror and less of an administrator, though. Now that much of our power base lies within the Iranian people, it is time for perhaps a change of rulership. He has been planning on restructuring the empire to a more bureaucratic state, assigning his descendants as governors, hoping to grant the experience of the rule. In addition, this would require us to merge with the Iranian administration, something that may upset our Khwarezmian elite. We aim to rule, not to conquer, of course. We embrace a Dahawar as our primary culture. We unlock Timurid Diwan as our government reform, and we also implement it. And we will have our Muara lose some estate satisfaction, and this will give us monthly progress towards decentralization, additional, which probably isn't very good. Culture's capacity plus 20%, that's probably good. Possible government reforms plus 1, that seems extremely strong. It's administrative efficiency plus 10%. Really don't know how strong that is as a modifier. And can assign governorship. Okay. The governorship is a unique mechanic of the Timurids that allows them to have a unique type of subject for members of the ruling dynasty. And here's a little bit of an interesting thing, though. I think when control, or when it's really hard to have and propagate control, it might be the case that if you start to have a far-flung empire, that making subjects actually makes a lot of sense. So we talked about not being able to fully implement stuff. If we have a subject, the subject can have a high level of control. So, going for multiple subjects may be the better way to expand your power base in the early game. It's going to be interesting to find that out. And much, much more, our favorite. But that's all for today, the Happy Friday. We hope you enjoyed it. Next week will be intense. You know what's also intense? Camping. Yeah. Get it? Since on Monday we will have a Tinto maps of feedback for the Horn of Africa, and Wednesday we will have the HRE, and Friday we will have a Tinto flavor on Saxony. Cheers! Alright, thank you, Pavia. And also a happy Friday to everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, and then we'll say goodbye before we start coughing again.